first name Rousset. Is that how you pronounce it?
Rousset.
Rousset. Oh, but I am so awkward. Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Woo! Does anyone remember Rebecca Black? Yeah? So her song, Friday, popular in 2012, I believe. I've been singing it to my daughter on Fridays. So I'm just bringing Rebecca Black back into our community. So good morning. Thank you all so much for coming. I know there's a lot of new faces here, and if you're a little confused of why I'm here and not Sadie, I'm Molly. I'm the host of Creative Mornings Sacramento. Sadie was stepping in for me while I was on maternity leave. I have a whole slide dedicated to her, so we'll get there. But I'm Molly, in case anybody doesn't know who I am. So we'll get started. Great, okay. Our theme for October is vision. It was chosen by our Riyadh chapter in Saudi Arabia and illustrated by Razan Alishan. How do you see the world? How do you want to change it? Vision refers both to the sense of sight and our ability to imagine the future. Are you focused on the little details? Can you see the big picture? As we age, our eyesight begins to deteriorate. So I can't read this right now. Seeing objects up close gets more difficult, and as we gain experience, what we want to accomplish evolves. Will your life grow darker or brighter? Each creative act involves seeing something in your mind's eye, then attempting to make it a reality. A painter, an architect, and every other type of artist or craftsman has a vision for their work. What message, emotion, or impact do you want to convey in yours? You are your own visionary. What do you want to see? Okay, here's Sadie. Sadie was so awesome. I know she's not here this morning because now she's doing her real life, but she took over for me for August and September, and just like huge, massive shout out to Sadie. So everyone, if you were here with her, thank you so much for helping her. Okay, also, this is exciting. This is new. We have new merch. I'm sure some of you saw it. It's at the back table. We had a local designer design our shirts. We have a nice model in the background wearing one. Chris, do a spin for us. I'm allowed to whistle. It's my husband. All the money that we raise just goes to putting on the events if we need to buy breakfast or anything like that. So you're just supporting Creative Mornings Sacramento. Oh Shirt Yeah was our printer for these shirts. They're based out of Vacaville. This is just leading up. Jordan, their founder, will be our speaker in December. Her story is very interesting. I will just drop the nugget that her first year creating screen printing when Etsy was like kind of becoming a thing, 2017, Rachel, maybe, she made $1.2 million. Blew it all. Yeah, starting a business, and she had to start over. So she has a very interesting story. She's doing super well. Just opened up her Vacaville location, and she's opening up a coffee shop out there as well. So big shout out to Jordan and Oh Shirt Yeah for printing our shirts. Okay. Did you know the number one way that people learn about Creative Mornings Sacramento is through their friends? So next month, we invite you to bring a friend, whether they've never heard of Creative Mornings, have been away for a long time, but are excited to get back, or are a Creative Mornings regular, but just need a push from a friend to join, get them to tag along. Can't wait to see you and your buds pour out some coffee and expand our circle of friends. Anybody, is it your first time here this morning? Yeah, wow, welcome. Look at you. Who can I recruit? Christopher, can we close? We have some sunlight over here and eyeballs. I don't know which window it is, but let's close it on up. We had our little icebreaker. Nope. Next one. We had our icebreaker question. I want you to meet a friend this morning. So if you can just turn to the person next to you, share what's on your vision board for next year as we wrap up the year. Give you a few seconds, say hello to someone, and share your vision board.
Hey, what's up? Luke, what's on your vision board?
For me, it's kind of more on me. It's like photography. So next year, I think album cover will be kind of awesome.
Cool. I want to elect Dr. Flo Kofa for mayor of Sacramento.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, our campaign manager. So I've been working on that.
Getting close to time, huh?
Yeah, very close. Yeah, election day is very soon. Things are definitely heating up right now. There's kind of there's a lot of debates happening, but there was a debate that aired last night on ABC that was filmed previously. Yeah. Did you watch it? Yeah. Cool. Where are you hoping to travel to?
It really doesn't matter. I mean, even Nashville. I mean, my wife, we used to travel. It's cool to travel. Because I do a lot of sports talking, so if there's something national. I'm at this point, I'm like, work out. It's funny because I used to travel off to yourself for work, but it's just
All right. Nice job, everyone.
If you could choose anywhere, where would it be?
Travel right now. I'm in two places I've not been to, like South America or Australia.
Cool. I hope that happens for you. Yeah, good to meet you.
Yeah, so hopefully.
5, 4, 3,
Looking pretty good.
2,
Yeah.
1.
There's a lot of
Ding ding.
nasty attacks happening right
Yay,
now.
we met friends.
Shapes things.
Yeah.
Speaking of friends, I love my friends and my volunteer team. Thank you guys so much for all of your help. If you're interested in volunteering, I'm always looking for day of help, more involved help, especially going into the new year. I have my very, very special team, David, our videographer, Maddie, our photographer, Rachel, social media. So big shout out to y'all. Thank you so much. And if you guys do want to help out in any sort of capacity, please email me. I love the help. Everyone else does too. And I'm super fun to hang out with. So join me. Big shout out to our sponsors, the co-op, as always, providing us our fruit and flowers. The Clara for having us here in our location every month. Seasons Coffee, keeping us nice and caffeinated. And our breakfast sponsor this morning, Monica. Where are you? Monica, you're in the back. Woo! Monica with Local Ipsum. She bought all of our breakfast this morning, I believe from Faria Bakery. So thank you, Monica. No? All right. Ignore what I just said. Thank you for breakfast. Appreciate you. And our presenting sponsor, did it last month and she's doing it this month as well, is Melinda Levy. That's right there. And as we say here at Creative Mornings, everyone is creative and pretty much everything in life requires creativity, even divorce. Meet our October presenting sponsor, Melinda, of Finding Common Ground. Melinda is a Sacramento attorney and mediator who compassionately and creatively mediates divorce, helping make an often difficult situation feel less overwhelming for both parties involved. Melinda is not here today. I'm reading Sadie's notes from last month, but she has been a longtime friend of Sadie's, and we're very grateful for her to be our sponsor. When they were emailing back and forth about the partnership, and Melinda shared her headshot, Sadie said, "Wow, you look really friendly and kind, and like someone I'd want to mediate my divorce, if I were married and needing one. Just need to sort out the finding a husband bit first." But Melinda, when Sadie does, and if Sadie gets divorced, she's gonna call you. You can learn more about Melinda and her services at findingcommonground.com. Also, just a little shout out for the Clara. In a couple, what's the day? Today's the 17th. So like in 10 days, 26? Oh my God, Tammy. Oh, whatever, we're here. The Clara is having their second annual celebration. So mark your calendars for Saturday, October 26th, as the space is transformed into a ghoulishly good time for the whole family. They're doing a screening of Beetlejuice at 8 p.m. I think they might still be looking for some volunteers. So if you want to come out, it's going to be a whole event from 5 to 9:30 here at the Clara. And if you want to be a sponsor at all and help us in any way, shape, or form, we are a 501c3. We did it. Kind of. I'm still doing it. I went to the bank yesterday and had to walk out because I got really frustrated. But if you'd like to be a sponsor, Creative Mornings Sacramento is volunteer-led. It's completely free to attend, which means we rely on the support and generosity of local businesses or individuals every month. We could definitely use more cash donations or dedicated breakfast sponsors. And if this is something you or your company can help with, I'd love to chat with you. And I think being registered for this, my company at least does matching for charitable donations. So also consider that if your company will match whatever you donate, double the money. Creative Mornings is currently in 238 chapters or cities in 69 countries worldwide. 27,000 morning people attend a Creative Mornings talk every month. Our events are and always will be free. All right, in case you didn't know, we have an election coming up, okay? I just want to be very, very clear that this presentation is not focused on endorsing any specific political candidates. I encourage you to do all your own research, vote however you want. Just make sure you're registered. And if you're not registered to vote, you can go to vote.org. There's ways to also check locally to make sure you're registered in California. So just if you haven't done this yet, Election Day is November 5th. So do that. Okay, and this one's gonna come up real quick. Our next Creative Mornings is November 8th, which is in like 3 weeks. So if you feel like we just saw each other, we get to see each other again. It's going to be super amazing with Megan Phillips and Brad Secchi. Here November 8th. So just mark your calendars that one's coming up pretty quickly. All right, y'all. The Creative Mornings Manifesto sets the tone for our events and shines a light on the values here at Creative Mornings. Sadie did this and it's fun, so feel free to read aloud with me if you'd like. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things that you love. We believe in a power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from others, in hugs and high fives. We bring people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome. All right. Yay! All right. Enough with me. Let's move on to Jeff Rousset. The T is silent. And Jeff is a political organizer and educator currently serving as a campaign manager for the Dr. Flo Kofer for a Sacramento mayor campaign. He has taught leadership, community organizing, and public speaking at both Harvard and Stanford universities as a teaching fellow. He has led electoral and advocacy campaigns at the local, state, and federal levels over 15 years, including work with environmental groups, formerly incarcerated people, and media makers. He lives in East Sac with his wife, dog, and I believe 7-month-old baby now.
7 months now.
How you sleeping? We good?
Not.
Nice. Nice. All right, everyone, welcome Jeff. The stairs over there, you can hop on up.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you so early. So I'm going to be talking about vision. I'm going to be really focusing on the question of eyeglasses or contact lenses. What's best for driving at night? Just kidding. So when I think about vision, I think about the difference between the world as it is and our vision for the world as it should be, right? And so how do we honestly look at the world as it is and the beautiful things about it and also the challenges with it? And then how do we envision a better world and how do we organize people, bring people together to create that better world? So I've worked with a lot of different advocacy groups, different communities, electoral campaigns. I was Katie Maples' campaign manager. She's now on city council, and I'm really proud right now to be working with the Dr. Flo Kofer for mayor campaign. And I think, we've got this question where so many of us have a vision for the world that is really different than what the world looks like, right? Like how many of us walk around Sacramento every day downtown and think, wow, this is exactly how I want this place to look, right? So we've got so much talent, so much creativity, right? Why is there such a gap between the world that we envision and we want and what things actually look like right now, right? And are there ways that we can actually bring ourselves together to change the status quo and to create together the world that we want and to develop a shared vision together, right? So I think the first part of that is actually listening to people, right? Actually getting to hear from folks what is our shared vision and developing that together, right? So I want us to just take a couple minutes to talk to someone next to you and answer the questions, what do you love to see about Sacramento right now? Like, what do you love about Sacramento? And what's something that you want to see change about Sacramento? Is that okay? Can I invite you all to? So what are What are some of the things that you heard that you love about Sacramento? Diversity, community, art, trees, walking, generosity, the people, right? And what are some of the things that we'd like to see changed about Sacramento? Public transportation, is there even such a thing, right? What? Human-centric city design.
Public education.
Public education. Rent prices. More homes for people, right? Converting unused buildings, unused spaces. Affordable housing, right? Imagine that. So do people agree about these things? Some of these things we want to see change, right? I mean, we've talked to tens of thousands, with the Dr. Flo campaign, we've talked with tens of thousands of people, and it's almost unanimous that people want to see a change to homelessness, right? Too many people are sleeping on the streets, sleeping in parks, right? So if we have somewhat of a shared vision around some of these things, right? Why does it look so different on the streets, right? And what does it take to actually shift things? So I would say that the main reason, both the obstacle to change and the mechanism for change, is power, right? So Dr. King defined power as the ability to achieve purpose. Does anybody know how to say power in Spanish? Poder, right? Which also means to act, right? To take action, to achieve purpose, to bring about your vision, right? And so oftentimes the world as we see it, right, how it looks, is defined by the people who have the most power, right? And to change the world, we need to build power among other constituencies that are not currently represented, right? So of course, Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement, right, organized with the African American community, right, that was relatively powerless as a political constituency, right, brought people together, organized, and built a lot of power in that community so that they were able to bring about their vision of a nation without legalized racial segregation, right? Obviously, the world is not perfect. There's still a lot of ways to go, right? But that particular scourge, right, was challenged and changed through people organizing and bringing about a better vision for the world, right? So how do we actually do that? How do we organize people? How do we understand power in such a way that we can bring people together to create our shared vision for the world, right? And some of it is about understanding how power currently operates, right? So power is a lot about a kind of dynamic relationship between resources and interests and shared vision, right? So right now in this photo, who has the power here?
Big fish.
The big fish, right? And what are the resources and what's the vision of the big fish right now? Wants lunch, right? And what resources does the big fish have to get what it wants? A big mouth, right? Size, strength, speed, right? What's the vision of the little fish? To survive, right? To get away. Who are some of the big fish in Sacramento right now? Landlords. The mayor. Who else? Commercial developers, right? Real estate groups. And who are some of the little fish?
Citizens.
People, ordinary people. Small businesses, small business owners, right? And so how do we change the dynamic, right? How do we change the dynamic so that the people who have power, who benefit from the status quo, right? A lot of the real estate interests that we mentioned actually benefit from the status quo, right? They don't benefit as much from affordable housing as they do from building luxury housing for rich people moving here from the Bay Area, right? Even though that may hurt people who have been here for a long time, right? Landlords benefit from high rent, right? Not from rent control. So actually, last year there was a measure before City Council to pass rent control, right? But it was defeated by City Council members who had taken a lot of money from real estate interests, right? And landlords who don't want rent control. So when we see that our vision for rent control and for like affordable housing is not manifest in Sacramento, we have to ask this question, well, who has the power? Who's making these decisions, right? And then of course, how do we change it? And the way we change it is organize, right? So how do we do this, right? And a lot of this is about how do we develop a shared vision, right, among all of us people who have shared interests, right, in order to come together, organize, and challenge the status quo, challenge those powerful actors so that our shared vision can become a reality, right? And so there's a lot of leadership practices that go into this, right? A lot of storytelling. First of all, the thing that is important is for all these folks, right, to be in communication with each other, right? To talk with each other, to listen to each other, right? And to understand what the conditions are and what the circumstances are that are causing the issues, and to figure out together how can we creatively develop a shared vision and exercise power and autonomy in our community. So one thing is, the way that power functions is often to keep people separated and divided, right? When in fact the diversity of the community is a real strength in terms of creativity, right? So part of how that operates is that the big fish donate a lot to political campaigns, right? Control the flow of information. So right now voters are getting flooded, their mailboxes are getting flooded with disinformation and distortions, right? In our case, it's saying that Dr. Flo wants to put homeless people in parks, right? Which is total madness, right? But this is what the real estate sector that wants to benefit from the status quo is spreading, right? So what we've been doing is organizing people to knock on doors, to talk with tens of thousands of voters and actually get people engaged, right? Building leadership teams across the city of people who are hosting house parties, who are door knocking, who are phone banking, and who are actually working together to create an alternative vision for this city, right? Typical political campaigns work like ad campaigns, right? It's like a few people who do focus groups and then they send out a bunch of mail and they basically scare people into doing what they want, right? But this is kind of the idea behind a people-powered campaign, right? It's like, how do we create opportunities for people to participate in creating the changes that they want to see together? So that's what we've been doing, organizing lots of door knocking events out in the community where people can actually come and participate, share a better vision for a different world. So in order to do this, right, in order to bring all of these people who are typically divided, right? The way that the powerful and elites work is often by keeping people divided and distracted, right? And so what it takes to bring people together is leadership, right? And this definition of leadership, and by the way, a lot of this comes from my mentor, Marshall Gans, who I learned a lot of this from. Marshall Gans was an organizer with the civil rights movement and then worked with Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers and was the architect of the Barack Obama campaign in 2008, the grassroots field operation that organized millions of volunteers into the surprise upset of him getting elected president, starting by winning the primary. And so this is a definition of leadership that's different from the kind of typical just top-down idea of leadership, right? That leadership is actually about accepting responsibility for enabling others to achieve shared purpose, enabling others to achieve a shared vision, right? The problems that we're facing are so great that oftentimes we hope for some great leader to come in from above, and just like fix everything for us, right? And we see some of that in our national politics right now, right? Where things are so bad that what are some people hoping for? Just like a strong man, who can just come in and just like fix the problem, right? That's a lot of what's driving Trump's enthusiasm on the ground, right? People are like, things are so screwed up. We just need like a guy to come in and dominate and take control, right? But we can't do that, right? The problems are too complex, right? That we actually need everybody participating and becoming part of the solution, right? So this is another idea of leadership that is about working collaboratively, right? Not just top down, but actually working horizontally and collaboratively. And so it's also a definition of leadership that is not just a formal status, right? Because don't we know a lot of people who have the formal title of leadership, but they may not actually demonstrate very good leadership? You guys ever know of any people like that, right? And then don't we also know people in our communities, right, every day who exercise leadership to help each other, right? To bring people together, to form community, to help our families, right? Who don't necessarily have formal titles, but they're leaders in the community, right? Oftentimes women, right? Whose leadership and work goes unrecognized in the community, right? But holding everything together. So the idea is leadership is something that can be shared, right? And it's a practice that can be developed and cultivated. So what we're trying to do in a campaign is take all these folks with different visions in the community and help cultivate more leadership so more and more people can participate, host house parties, talk to each other, tell stories, right? And inspire each other to get involved in creating change in our world. Because it's not gonna happen from just one person, it's really a collaborative effort. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
These are three kind of models of leadership. One is this dot leadership where there's like one person who makes all the decisions and everyone around them is a dot coming in trying to get through, right? Has anyone ever been a dot in a situation? A couple people, right? Has anyone ever been an arrow trying to get through to one of those people? How does that feel, this dot model of leadership?
Frustrating.
It's very frustrating, right? Then there's kind of the reaction to that, right? To the hierarchy top down can be the no structure, right? Like we all do our own thing, right? We don't have a leader. We all just do our own thing. How does that feel?
Chaotic.
Also frustrating, right? Like a lot of wasted energy, wasted resources, like people doing a lot of work, but it's not really adding up to much, right? And then there's this interdependent teams model, sometimes called a snowflake model, right? Which is like interdependent teams working together, coordinating to achieve a shared vision, to achieve a shared purpose together, right? So that's, again, kind of the model that we're trying to build in a grassroots, people-powered campaign is organizing people in that kind of a structure so that we can make change together. Nested goals, this is also, when we think about how to create change, there's so many changes that need to happen in our society, right? How do we actually bring that vision about, right? So this is one model for kind of thinking about how small changes can lead to bigger changes, right? So like in the civil rights movement, for example, this little triangle here was maybe the Montgomery bus boycott, right? Which won desegregation of buses in Montgomery. That was the first campaign, right? 1955 to 1956 in Montgomery, Alabama. Won desegregated buses, built up their resources and leadership so that then they could take on more campaigns around the country and eventually 10 years later win desegregation through the Civil Rights Act 1964 and the Voting Rights Act 1965, right? But they didn't start with that huge goal of desegregating the whole country, right? It was like, how do we take on one change in our community that then can build our resources, build our leadership, build our capacity to take on much bigger changes down the line? Does that make sense? So this is how we can create a lot of change by being kind of focused and organizing. So again, what has this kind of looked like in Dr. Flo for mayor campaign? We've knocked on over 50,000 doors so far, made over 80,000 phone calls, hosted 76 house parties in every part of the city, and raised over $700,000 from individual donors mostly. Dr. Flo is not taking any corporate money, not taking any police money, not taking money from those big fish, right, that kind of dominate the status quo. And so, we are hoping that by doing this, we can create a real change in our society by, one, electing a great leader, but also by working with people in the community hall who also have a voice and want to see things change through a kind of more collaborative approach so that we can create a shared vision for a better Sacramento. And there's a lot of disinformation and divisiveness and fear-mongering that's going out right now. But we think that because we've been building real relationships and having authentic conversations, that people will see through that and work together to try and make a change in Sacramento and create our shared vision. So yeah, that's mostly it. Is that good timing?
Right on the dot.
Okay, perfect, cool.
You have a few minutes for Q&A.
Yeah, do people have questions or thoughts? Yeah?
I think one of the things that really disturbs me, because I went to journalism school, back when printing presses were invented, and it's the disinformation and how do we get to truth? And I mean, what's your take on that? Because it's really disturbing that you really don't know what the truth is anymore.
Yeah. I mean, keep telling the truth, I think, right? Like, we have to communicate. There's independent media right now. I mean, a lot of the disinformation is coming from mainstream media. At the local level, it's different, right? I mean, national politics is so messed up right now, right? Like, especially in a presidential election, you just see all the madness, right? That I think for one thing is like at the local level, we actually have much more agency over our democracy, right? There's actually still a lot more room for creativity, participation, and engagement. It's not so, the kind of like levels of corruption at the federal level are so big and the institutions are so big and powerful. It's hard right now that I feel like we're starting with kind of the smaller triangles at the local level, right? We have to take action at the big level, but while also taking action at the local level. So, I mean, the way that we've been doing is talking to people, is just talking to people face to face, calling people and having real conversations with people to try and hear what is true for folks, right? And just having honest conversations. But really, that's I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that because it's a big problem. Like the internet has done some good things. It's also doing a lot of bad things. And so I think it's like, how do we change these things together? I mean, the one thing is that I think that a lot of people, despite the kind of noise and propaganda, still see the truth, right? Like people still, when you talk to people, they actually are still pretty clear-eyed, right? So it's also not mistaking the distortions, even though we're so bombarded by them. A lot of people just aren't buying it either, right? So a lot of people take these mailers and just throw them in the trash, right? And they don't actually believe all that stuff, right? But I think, we have a responsibility to try and also just share our truth and keep talking about it together, and challenging the lies when we see them. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look forward to November 8th when we'll all be back here together, which is post-election. What do we do after the election to continue to create the vision that we want?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, a lot of stuff is going to be happening in city council, right? So talking about...
So you want us to like come to meetings?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Make the invitation.
That's...
Here's your invitation.
Yeah, that's going to be part of it, right? And also having conversations, right, with each other about what do we do next, right? Like, what's our shared vision? What do we actually want to create in Sacramento? And then bringing that to those meetings, right? And into City Hall in order to demand those changes, right? But it's like, oftentimes people think, and this was kind of the issue with the Obama campaign, that once we get someone in office, then that's it, you know? But actually, that's when the work starts, right? That's when now we have to, because there's going to be a lot of opposition trying to stifle everything that she wants to do, right? So we have to stay engaged, keep showing up to those meetings, and keep finding ways to make our shared vision heard, right, where it matters, in the halls of power in City Hall, in order to implement them in the world. But yeah, it's a good question. I mean, that's really when the work starts. It's not where it ends and we all go home and go to sleep. Although I hope that I can get some sleep. I also have a 7-month-old baby, so like campaign season and baby season is like, wow. Yeah.
Are there any grassroots efforts to address money in politics? Because with all of this organization effort, you're still fighting against massive lobbies and PACs that can throw money at it without spending all of their time and effort and sleep. Whereas, you know, grassroots organizations typically have to spend their energy and their time fighting against all of that money. So do you see any move with local politics to address that as an issue?
I mean, it's kind of what we're doing, right? Like Dr. Flo is not taking any corporate money, and in the primary, we basically crushed 3 longtime veteran Sacramento politicians, right? Like they were all in second, third, and fourth place with a few hundred votes dividing them, and Dr. Flo won by 8,000 votes, right? So it was like a landslide between her and the next place folks, and that was without the big money that they were spending in the race, right? And that's because I think it's because people want change, right? Like people really want to see change, and they see the authenticity coming through. And so partly it's like we have to just keep organizing harder, right? But it's a major challenge. So eventually, hopefully, we can overturn Citizens United and get some of these big changes. It's not looking so good with the Supreme Court that we have right now. So it's like we have a lot of, again, big changes at the big level. I think that the nested goals triangle kind of helps me focus on like where do we have some more agency that we can create some of these changes. And at the local level, we can challenge that stuff like we're doing it in this campaign. Yeah, I saw another hand. Yeah. I think you had your hand up first, yeah.
With just like how polarizing everything is right now, I feel like just having conversations with people who have different opinions becomes very difficult and very emotional. Do you have tips? But without having those conversations, that's pretty dangerous, right? Because then we're just all living in our own tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Do you have tips for folks in the room of how to have those conversations with people who don't have the same opinions as you, but not get heated or not just stomp away? Because that seems really hard these days.
Yeah, I mean, the not getting heated thing is that's meditation and like exercise and like all these things that like keep us healthy, like breathing exercises, right? Like we all have to kind of do the self-care stuff, right? Yoga and breathing exercises to kind of keep ourselves from getting triggered constantly, right? But I think the thing to do is to listen to people with different opinions and actually engage with them. There's been too much of this like, oh, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm not going to talk to you or whatever, and families breaking apart and stuff. Like, I think we actually have to listen to people, because even people who have really different opinions usually have good intentions and want to like take care of their family, but they've been listening to a different analysis that says that, the way that they think, usually people have pretty good reasons. It's not that people are like evil, right? It's just there's so much propaganda and kind of brainwashing and stuff that oftentimes if you take the time to listen to people and see where they're coming from, kind of layers below the onion, then you can find common ground. I think another thing is just telling stories, right? Not trying to beat people in a rational debate, but actually telling a personal story and being vulnerable, right? About like, why do you care? What's happened in your life? What challenges have you faced or do you face in your own life, right? That make you care about these issues, and just being open and vulnerable and authentic helps break down some of these walls, when we try and just like, I'm right, you're wrong, and fight people in that way. You had your hand up?
Yeah. First, thank you so much for being here during a really busy time for you.
Thank you.
I want to ask, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting with community organizing, with few resources and little bandwidth? Like, where do they start?
Can I say flowformayor.com? But I mean, volunteer. I think just volunteer. Do some door knocking. Door knocking is like the scariest thing in the world, right? Like going out and knocking on a stranger's door and talking to them about like, what do you want to see change in Sacramento, right? But actually doing it, like doing the scary thing, gives you more courage and confidence, So it actually can become quite fun. So I think it's good for like personal development and communication and learning about your city and how other people think, right? By actually just going out and trying, knocking some doors and talking to people, and then you'll see, the sky is not going to open up and consume you, right? It's like it turns out that it's actually okay, but it's scary to take that first step, and actually have those conversations. But it can be pretty cool afterwards. Yeah, over there.
Last question.
Yeah, you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Full disclosure, I'm a friend of Flo, so I am biased. I've door knocked, I've done all the things, but two things. I want to say to you, Jeff, I really appreciate the grassroots, and I think the authenticity that has come from having to go out and be touched by the people and engage, because politically that is how it's always been for us, right? Dr. Martin Luther King, right? How did we change civil rights and have civil rights and create that movement? It was getting out of the community and moving forward collectively, right? So that's just in our DNA of how we get movement forward. But to you all that are asking how to be engaged, disclosure again, I am a commissioner for the city of Sacramento. I still measure you for District 1. Go to Thomas. But I want to encourage each one of you, to really show up. Because sometimes, and everything is posted on the city website. We post our agendas, Brown Act, Sunshine Act, all the acts. We have to, have things in order. But a lot of times we have important things that are being discussed, especially the half-cent tax that goes to Parks and Recs, youth funding, it goes to the police. And we're bringing forward issues and really no one's there, right? No one's there until it's like the children's fund, which absolutely show up, right? Like, let's overtake and make sure the city does what we want for our young people. But it's really that everyday concerted effort to just be more engaged and just really like show up, like at least go to something at city council once. If it's not a city council direct meeting, go to one of the commission meetings and hear what's being talked about and get informed and get involved, because that's where the change happens. I'm a regular everyday person. This is my colleague, she can attest, I'm very regular. My body engages. I'm not from Sacramento, but I love my city. I've been here 8 years, and I want it to be better, and I want to be a part of that. So like that for me is what has become so impactful, is really as busy as we are, and the children and the dog and the career and all the things that consume our time, if we love our city, and we do, just make that effort at least once a year, once a quarter, every other year, to just get out and do something that informs you about what's going on in the city. If there's something that's near and dear to your heart, pick that and follow those things that the city that we're talking about and show it.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. This is my info. Feel free to reach out. Thank you. Also, feel free to hit me up and go to flowformayor.com if you want. Thank you. Thanks, Colin.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.